Hey, I'm Sithking.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
I'm not going to be doing too much talking today because I just got done with the Equestria Girls thing.
Yeah.
If you missed it, I spent about 2 hours screaming about 120 minutes screaming incoherently.
More or less. So this works out. This works out well because recently, like a week or two ago, they announced they're going to do a movie with Batman and Superman, and it's going to be Batman versus Superman or Superman versus Batman, either way. And I got to thinking of some ideas. I thought it'd be really cool for this, and I thought, we should do a rambling review about just the ideas for this movie. And then I thought, well, it's mostly my ideas, and I'll be monopolizing the thing. But then Equestria Girls came up, and he got to go first.
Oh, God. My throat actually hurts. I'm going to go.
Yeah, good.
I'll be back.
So,
Ow.
while Sith King recovers his vocal cords... Alright. So, they're going to do a Batman versus Superman movie. And the first question is why they would fight. I mean, they're both good guys, right? Now, there's been a couple instances in comics where they fought before. You have to kind of, I don't know, come up with a weird situation and or exaggerate aspects of the personality. So one way to do this is with a super lawful Superman and a super unlawful Bruce Wayne, or Batman, rather. So Superman in Dark Knight Returns, for instance, is sort of a tool of the government. He does whatever the government tells him, and you could kind of see that happening. If he's enforcing the law and he sort of eventually goes too far and becomes like, I do what the government tells me to do, even if once in a while it's a bad idea. On the Batman side, you make him super unlawful. He's, breaking all the rules. He doesn't have a Jim Gordon to back him up or to hold him down, or put him on a leash or something. And so maybe he goes a bit too far. And if you exaggerate the lawfulness and unlawfulness in either direction, they can both be sympathetic while both also being a bit too far, and in a way that they would come in conflict with each other. And that's kind of what happened in Dark Knight Returns. The thing is, though, in Man of Steel, which this is supposed to be a sequel to Man of Steel, in Man of Steel, near the end, Superman trashes a $12 million drone, explicitly said to cost $12 million.
Okay, found the door.
Just so he can make a point about not being tracked. So Superman in this continuity is not super lawful. He's willing to bust stuff up in order to save the world or just to protect his privacy.
He's an asshole. He is.
Okay. Anyway.
I'm back, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed. So the question is, all right, so how else would they fight? Well, another way superheroes fight is some sort of confusion. Oh, I thought you were the villain. I thought you were the villain, back and forth. You can't do an entire movie based on that. You get like one fight scene out of it, kind of, but I don't, it would just be a stretch to somehow they didn't stop and talk. There wasn't any sort of reasonable, hey, look, let me explain myself. In either direction. I like to think they're reasonable enough to try that.
One of my favorite stories for how Superman and Batman met before one of the endless retcons probably screwed it out of existence.
Yeah.
Was Batman was swinging around the city on his grappling hook, complaining about his job at the Daily Bugle. No, wait, that's Spider-Man. But anyways, he was swinging around. Suddenly, the grappling line starts moving when he wasn't when it was attached to something, which is pretty bad.
Yep.
And he's like, excuse me. Oh, what's going on? And Superman's carrying him. He's like, hold, criminal! Your vigilante ways will never work. Which kind of ironic, since Superman, I don't think...
In some continuities, he's deputized, but some is not, yeah.
But anyways, he says, your ways of cleaning the streets are evil and unlawful, and so I'm taking you to jail. And so, but Batman just like, yeah, fuck that. And he drops down to the roof of this building that they're flying over. Superman goes, wait. He goes down. Hold on, Superman. I have a bomb strapped to some person in Metropolis, in Gotham City. If you grab me, it will go off, killing a person. Superman's like, well, fuck that. How do you... What? No, that's cheating, man. Not cool. That's the only way I'll remove the bomb from that person is if you help me with this case. And Batman shows how he works. He does detective stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He finds out that the person who's stealing all this stuff is Margaret Pye, the Magpie, or possibly Pinkie Pie's cousin.
Okay.
Actually, yeah, actually that sounds like a pretty cool character we could use, like for Daring Do Adventures. Margaret Pye. She runs a museum.
Okay. Anyway.
But it whole all Daring Do's like shiny antiquities. But anyways, Magpie. She wants all the shiny things. Another well-crafted character from the world of Batman, which bases everything on the fact that you have a silly name.
This is superheroes in general. We're not going to get into a general Batman criticism because I got to get back to my movie.
I'm not criticizing superheroes in general. Just
right.
It's no Batman. I'm criticizing superhero. Whatever. But anyways, so Batman stops her. Superman says, "Okay, you have a point in what you do, but one thing, I want you to take off the bomb." Oh, and by the way, the bomb is activated because if Superman touches him in any way, there's like a force field surrounding Batman.
Yeah.
If super dense flesh penetrates it, then the bomb goes off.
Yep.
Batman's like, "Oh, right, the bomb." He takes off part of his utility belt, throws it to him. "Here's the bomb." "What? But you said it would kill a person in Gotham City." "I'm a person and I'm in Gotham City. I had to tell the truth in some way, otherwise you wouldn't believe me."
Yeah.
See, that's how it should happen. Superman trying to do good. Batman tricking him to show that, yeah, I may not always be the most lawful guy, but I get the job done, and I'm ultimately on the side of the cops. It allows a more natural interaction between the two of them, in my opinion.
Well, yes, except you don't have anything to compare it to because you weren't here when I mentioned my part. Actually, I haven't mentioned my part yet.
Oh, okay.
So, okay, yeah. I led off while you were out of the room with the sort of super lawful versus very unlawful type of things, and they could both become into conflict that way, and that's how it happened in Dark Knight Returns is the way I was comparing it. But I was also saying as you came in that Superman isn't that super lawful to base an entire movie off this conflict. Even that plot you just gave, I wouldn't make a whole movie on it. Like a 1 hour movie maybe, but like not the blockbuster we're looking for.
Maybe like a Justice League Unlimited episode.
Yeah, something
like that one that they based off of that Alan Moore comic where Superman had a black rose strapped to his chest because Mongol came back.
Oh.
Yeah, that was actually pretty cool. But
okay.
It's like the only adaptation Alan Moore's ever allowed for one of his works. But I'm sorry, I'm taking the tension off of you.
All right. So, I was thinking that, all right, so how other ways would they end up fighting? And I have to go mind control. I have to go someone, and I'll go with my, rationale for this as we go. Say someone was putting Superman under mind control. Let's say it's intermittent type of thing. He fights it off once in a while. Sometimes he has amnesia about it type of thing. But here and there he does, like, evil things, right? And Batman you would start off the movie, he's investigating just what's up with Superman in general, and then gets onto this idea that Superman seems to have gone rogue in some way. Which, by the way, would be for a great teaser or something, because remember how they featured the military so heavily in Man of Steel, which makes sense if you want to go realistic. You would totally have these guys in some sort of bunker or something with, like, the projectors up of their latest reports and things, and they're saying that stuff has been destroyed at, like, random locations here and there, and we finally got a picture, and there's this, red and blue blur, and someone says, I'm afraid we have to consider the possibility that Superman has gone rogue. And then all the lights flicker, and then on the projector screen, like, they all look towards the camera, we don't see it at first, and it just says, "Gentlemen." And we look at the projector, and it's Batman's logo. "You're going to need my help." Like,
okay, that sounds pretty cool.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have more to add? Because I could add.
Well, go ahead. Yeah.
That could actually lead very well into a Justice League movie eventually. One of the things that Justice League Unlimited did very well as Justice League, the cartoon, the recent one, not one of the earlier ones where it was basically Super Friends.
Yeah.
But was continuing off of something from the Superman animated series where Superman was mind-controlled by Darkseid into taking over the Earth for him.
Okay.
This was to get around a treaty by New Genesis, but whatever.
Yeah.
But this led to a huge amount of distrust in superheroes. And so that funded the Cadmus Project, which created teams of superheroes specifically to fight against Superman and the Justice League. Professor Hamilton, once one of Superman's best friends, decided, yeah, fuck this. I'm going to work for Cadmus.
Mm-hmm.
Superman asks, how did they interrogate you, make you work for them? Work for them? I mean, force me? I volunteered.
Yeah, because you were
Yeah.
under mind control. Yeah.
If you can be mind controlled like every 30 seconds,
Yeah.
and you have the power of a god,
Right.
God, what chance do the rest of us have?
All right.
Raising interesting questions on, are vigilantes like the way we want to go in society?
Mm-hmm. And
How
how
much
much
control
trust can we put in them? Yeah.
How much role does the government have in controlling this?
Mhm.
How all these really interesting, deep questions.
Mhm.
I advise watching Justice League, by the way.
Yeah.
Very good. It's available for streaming on Netflix.
And we're going to get into a lot of those questions. You can get quite philosophical, really, in several aspects. But here's the first one you just mentioned is, Superman's role. And, he saved the world in Man of Steel, which is supposed to be a sequel to Man of Steel. But at some point, he might be aware of, if I had landed on some other less habitable world or something, this one never would have been threatened. You could have some angst over that. I don't want to push the angst too far because they did it too far in Man of Steel. But you could have a note of it, and we'll get to this. But one of the big things I'd love to do with Batman vs Superman, BVS I'll call it, is to restore the nobility that we wanted out of Superman when we saw Man of Steel. So we have him in his angstiness, and by the end, especially with the comparison to Batman, right? He can get to a better mental place and a comparative place where he is more of that sort of big brother guy. That's his character arc for this thing. And in the meantime, he has to go through all this doubt of like, oh crap, maybe I can be mind controlled. Maybe I'm more of a threat to people. Should I really be here? And then eventually, yes, Superman, yes, you should be here. We can fight off the mind control threat. You are part of the team, sort of thing, eventually. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the government could be suspicious in the meantime, and the third movie leads to Cadmus or something, but,
Well, yeah, that's just a general thing that's... Actually, I don't know. I forget what I was going to say.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Superman under mind control, and of course, so who's going to be mind controlling him? Well, of course, it's got to be Lex Luthor. Right.
Well,
first off, for being such a good, Superman villain, so well known and everything.
Yeah, but he's not really known for mind control.
But he is known for all sorts of gadgets that he bought or had someone design for him.
Or he invented himself.
Where he was originally a mad scientist, and they made him the corporate guy. I like the corporate idea.
Yeah,
because it's so different from every other villain. He doesn't cackle, He's just like, I'm going to kill you, type of thing.
I liked the idea of him. Sometimes he likes to pretend he has the idea that he's saving the world from Superman.
I would totally run with that.
But if he does, why would he want to use mind control to make Superman do all these things?
Because he wants the public to hate Superman.
Right.
He wants everyone to turn against Superman. And his plan, right? He does a mind control thing, and he's going to basically frame Superman by actually controlling and making him do stuff. Everyone's going to hate him. And then Lex is going to get to defeat him. He's going to arrange a whole, triumphant thing where I killed the alien and I am sort of the savior of mankind now.
Which I have to admit, remember Superman 4 or Superman 5 or which one was it where he had the really stupid plan of making an island out of kryptonite?
It was 5, but they didn't call it 5. It was Superman Returns.
Yeah, they had an awesome scene where he shanked the fuck out of Superman with a kryptonite knife.
Yeah.
And,
We're going to get to that.
Oh, no. Let me just expand on that. He didn't have a knife specifically made. He just reached out, saw a crystal made of kryptonite growing, snapped it off with his bare hand, and then shanked the guy.
Yeah.
That was cool. But
yeah.
I'm sorry.
All right. So I definitely want to pull on that sort of racist element of, or xenophobic element. I hate the aliens. Simultaneously, that selfish element of frick you getting all the glory. And the other selfish element of just, even if Superman wasn't getting glory, Lex Luthor wants to have as much power as possible anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think we could do a tie-in with the government thing that he's got these robots he's designed. I'm calling them Dominators. And they're sort of like Superman type thing. They fly around. They're strong,
Mm-hmm.
And he's got like 50 of them. And he wants, to use those to control things or to get approved by that. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah. I remember how he got those. He hijacked the hammer drones from the Stark Expo. That's how he got them.
It's a bit like that, yeah. It's a bit like, but hey, that's a different universe, right? So we're cool.
He has a trans-dimensional generator or a stupid, inexplicable mirror that is somehow shaped like
a we're not back on the... Turn off the TV.
My rage cannot be contained to only one review.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy.
I'm sorry.
So yeah, that's his plot there. And Superman is. I don't want him to be like mind controlled the whole time because then it's like the Batman show. Like, how can I defeat Superman? He's got a, it's intermittent. He does some, figures out a couple of things here or there, participates in his salvation or something. But here's a great line that will just echo throughout the movie, and it's "I will save you," and that's Lex Luthor speaking figurative. What?
Smallville. Somebody save me.
I've never seen that show.
Oh, I haven't either, but I've heard the theme song. It's kind of annoying.
Why did you sing it?
Because "Somebody Save Me" is...
Okay, well, whatever. I'm putting it aside, because
okay,
this makes for a great...
I will save you.
This is a great line, because normally it's Superman will save, like, a random person or the world. Now it's Lex Luthor, probably, like a high-rise building with, like, big glass windows. He's
probably
looking...
L-shaped.
He's looking out at humanity. "I will save you." And it's Batman speaking to Superman, whether directly or indirectly, like figuratively, sort of. "I will save you from the mind control." There's this thing Batman ultimately realizes, and probably kind of knew from the beginning because he's such a good detective anyway, that Superman is a good guy at heart. And he may be dangerous because of other factors, mind control, or doesn't control his powers well enough or something, but ultimately, I want you on my team, Superman. And I know they don't like to do Batman with like the super cynical version, and I don't trust anyone, but I'd like to have him realize that this is a great potential ally. And one of the great things about that is the direct contrast between him and Luthor. Because they're both humans, they both have no superpowers, they're both fabulously wealthy, but they have...
very smart.
Very smart.
Uses lots of gadgets.
Right.
Highly innovative.
Right. But the thing is that the great black and white twist is that the one of them sees Superman as a threat, and the other one sees him as an ally. Not an idol, Batman doesn't look up to him, but an ally.
I had this cool idea.
Yeah.
Like at the beginning, you could hear like Bruce saying, "Oh, how's Dick doing in Bloodhaven?" Symbolizing that yes, this is a Batman that has already had a Robin. He's already had a Bat family. He still keeps in contact with the rest of the Bat family, emphasizing that he has more connections with humanity than Lex Luthor, supposedly champion of humanity.
That could be kind of cool.
Now, granted, the relationship with humanity is a slight bit messed up, as it involves dressing up in black costumes and beating the shit out of people.
Only half of the time.
But it's an actual relationship instead of, "I will save you by mind-controlling Superman!"
yeah. Not the
it wouldn't be in that
megalomaniac.
tone, but...
Yeah, I thought of bringing in a Batgirl randomly, actually, just to, because it's always Robin. Like, hey, we'll throw in the girl. We'll do it, like, out of order or something. Or if there was a Dick Grayson previously, then he could be, in Bloodhaven, and maybe Batgirl shows up nearby because she's newer to the team or something. Like under training or something like that.
Yeah, like, just have it as, like, a throwaway thing. Like, maybe Batman talking via video conference with him.
Right. And we do a lot, again, reflecting on the masses, reflecting how they feel about Superman. There's a lot of, yay, Superman at the beginning, you saved us, and then a little bit of xenophobic, frick you, Superman, why'd you bring the aliens here? And then Lex feeds the xenophobic side, and then in the end, eventually, it all triumphs in the correct way. We'll talk about what sort of Batman we're dealing with here. Now, if we're going to do a Batman versus Superman thing, right?
It cannot be an all-cynical Batman, for several reasons. First, I'm really fucking sick of that type of Batman. I get Batman is dark and shadowy and suspicious, but at the same time, I've seen it way too much. Batman doesn't trust anyone. He has files on how to kill every damn person in the world.
Yeah.
And that's just way too far into
darkness.
Yeah, but without some Benedict Cumberbatch.
Right.
Although Khan versus Batman, that is something I would like to see.
I would like to see that.
Original Khan, not the new Khan. Maybe Yukon. There's gold!
No, all right.
I'm sorry, new Khan.
Yeah, I get it. I heard
Cornelius.
it. Yeah.
But, I keep taking this off. But, establish, maybe, like, have him already have a bit of humanity. The Bat family establishes that.
Yeah.
Like I said.
Yeah. Or in his Bruce Wayne persona, he can establish, like, he'd donate to charity or something. Give a little side note,
Yeah. Like, have him going out and, like, donating money to charity. Heck, introduce Bruce Wayne, not as Batman. Show him, like, opening a
hospital.
In the wreckage of Metropolis.
Right.
Okay, here's where this building was destroyed last year in the Earth-Krypton War. And here is where we stand today, in front of this 20-story tall Martha Wayne Memorial Hospital.
And you know it's got to happen then.
Martha Wayne Memorial Hospital for children.
For children, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Well, you know it's got to happen then. And so definitely we have to address the damage done to Metropolis, the efforts of rebuilding, however far it is along in the timeline.
And we have to show, like, there's still debris on the streets. We have to show there's still, like, craters in the ground.
Right. I mean, again, depends on timeline. But yes, to whatever degree the damage. But if you're going to do opening up a hospital, obviously what's got to happen is Clark Kent is doing a story on it. And he interviews Bruce Wayne and asks him, "Why do you feel about Superman?" And he says something about Superman being, generally a good guy, but, doesn't have the self-control that he really needs to avoid all this damage, And it would be totally true, and Clark would be totally, okay, I'll think about that, and that's and starts him on his arc, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I was saying about the type of Batman we're going for. I wasn't just talking about the lack of cynicism. I mean, there's this darkness to it.
It's still cynicism. It's Batman.
Well,
don't go
it's
over
a different.
The top.
There's a whole different sort of perspective we put on this. But I'll put it in terms of combat first, because what got me thinking about it was, okay, if they're going to fight, you can't make it like Mortal Kombat. Despite Mortal Kombat versus DC, which, was an actual game. But they can't stand within range of each other and throw punches, because Superman would take his face off, right?
They got around that by, like, having Batman have powered armor. But since the series is going in a more realistic direction, or it's trying to anyway, we can't have power armor.
You could do power armor in terms of the technology of this world. I'm willing to believe that Bruce Wayne could buy it. But in terms of themes, is so much more interesting to play up the asymmetry. They don't trade punches. Batman is all about the intelligence. The tricky plans. And here's another great moment that could go in a teaser or something, right? Superman under mind control bursts into one of the Batcaves. He's got several Batcaves. This one's on the side of a mountain or something. Like, he's just that well prepared, right? Superman bursts into a Batcave, and we see at the end of this little hallway all the computer screens that Batman normally has. I love the light that those screens give off, because they make a silhouette out of him. And Batman is standing there, and he just turns around. And he doesn't even pull out a Batarang. He just turns around. And Superman's got this sort of wild-eyed, mind-controlled look.
Maybe like the eyes glowing very slightly red
to
show that he's willing to
something like
blow
that.
Someone in half.
Anyway, so he sees him and zips for him, hits super speed, punches straight through him, and then looks up, and Batman is still standing there. And then the whole thing flickers a bit, and Batman is a hologram. And Superman's like looking up at him, and Batman looks down and says, "It's rather hard to kill a ghost, isn't it?" Well, he's not a ghost. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's intangible in this context. But it was...
You need more... I told you needed more control, Clark.
Or you could do something like that. You could... The one thing I thought about is using the word Clark, and I thought, no, wait, I'm guessing Lex Luthor can hear everything that's going on. I was going to have Lex Luthor, like, he's back at his base somewhere, and he's got, like, this hologram, like, suit, sort of, and when he moves, Superman moves, So what I thought would be really cool, though, is...
I'm sorry. I just got the mental image of Lex Luthor forcing Superman to dance Gangnam Style.
Okay, no.
Superman style.
Okay, but what would be really cool for so the world knows him as Superman or possibly Kal-El to some degree, right? Because they've announced it on the TV. So Batman would say, "It's rather hard to kill a ghost, isn't it, Mr. L? Or shall I say," and he looks straight into his eyes, "Mr. Luthor." And then we cut back to Luthor doing the harness thing, like, oh crap! He figured out who's behind it all, And it's great.
And the L thing.
The L, Mr. You thought it was EL, and it's actually L. I know. I just love that. So here are examples, and this is what I'm going for, is because it's all about Batman's tricky planning. It's a different sort of Batman. I like to call him Chess Master Batman. It's all about being the chess master.
But you can't have it too over the top. We need to make it
so
Superman has a role in this movie too.
He
instead of being
He will.
Otherwise, you get stuff like Batman Act of God.
The move. Yeah, I don't want to make it completely the Batman show, but there's, I guess, the Batman ideas are the ones that popped up in my head first. Like I have this one where, Superman, suddenly figures out where Batman is. And by the way, the reason Lex wants to kill Batman is because Batman's onto the plot. Like they realize that each other is onto this thing.
I read the script, Mr. Luthor. Oh shit.
But I want to have this bit where like Superman's on the other side of the world or near to it, and suddenly figures out Batman's like GPS location. So zips that way as fast as he can. Meanwhile, Batman suddenly also realizes that Superman realizes, so he like jumps through this pod thing that like shoots him out the side of this mountain where the freaking Batcave was, glides, and there's like a Wayne Corp tram going by, and there's the last car is empty, and he's prearranged this, and he like falls onto the top, and the roof just opens automatically like a trapdoor thing, and as he lands, there's already a costume there that he's like quickly changing out of the Batman suit, and he's like becomes like some random old man with like a scar, and he looks totally different. And by the time Superman smashes into the mountain and like tries looking for him, he's already moving up to the next car with like a cane or something, and someone's like, I thought that last car was supposed to be empty. Oh, okay. But like that level of planning,
I'm old. It takes a while to go to the bathroom.
Another bit of monologue that you could do is something like, and he would totally be testing Superman's abilities near the beginning. Like, Superman does a public appearance somewhere, and you see Batman is monitoring the whole thing on cameras, and he has some devices that are flashing light at random wavelengths, and he's like, infrared, negative, gamma, negative, X-ray, and like Superman blinks all of a sudden. Apparently he can see X-rays. Like he wouldn't even say it out loud. Like the computer would be like tracking that,
Apparently he can see X-rays. Why did I program you to hum?
So another bit of monologue, and I know I'm emphasizing Batman, but another bit of monologue would be, and he wouldn't be saying this to Superman, except perhaps as a recording. But it would be like, you're very powerful, etc., etc., but can you hear thoughts, Superman? Can you detect the encryption codes that I'm sending through the wires right now? Can you decode this with a mere thought?
Yeah, actually, I can. No. Crap!
But, so basically, you have to do so much effort to elevate Batman, because everyone's first thought when they try to make it realistic in their brain is Batman dies, So then we have to go, okay, Batman is just that good at planning, and he has the military's resources with him, so it's not just the one man, it's like other people kind of working with him type of deal. And yeah, I do want Superman to like participate here and there. I'd like Superman to meet Batman before the mind control. First off, the Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent thing, but also you could, swoop down on Batman, sort of like that the tow line thing you were talking about earlier. Not the whole bomb, but they'd have a conversation. Superman would be like, well, I'm not sure, but I'll leave you alone for now, type of deal. And I want the military as things go on, and Batman, holds his own but keeps taking defeats. I mean, he loses Batcaves, stuff still gets destroyed. Lex Luthor's plan is still moving forward, essentially. And the military is worried about Superman going permanently rogue, permanently under whoever's power it is. They don't know if it's Lex Luthor or not. And someone mentions, if it comes to it, we may have to take the nuclear option. And, like, we get to that point where, like, we're considering it, and perhaps we could lure him to a remote location and blow it up. And Batman's like, well, that'd be hard to do because Lex would probably suspect a trap. Well, perhaps if we used a nuke in a slightly less abandoned location. Like, we're thinking about it, like, oh, shit, this is a big stakes game we're playing here.
Well, you Smallville is practically abandoned after Superman threw a train through it. I'm still not over that.
So this moment I want to get to at the end. So Superman is dealing with all the traps, trying to find the real Batman type of deal, and finally, Batman apparently accidentally reveals his position when Superman's, pretty close by, and Superman can see him with X-ray vision or whatever, or Lex Luthor could see him on a TV screen, I don't care. But so Lex is just pissed by this point, because Batman just keeps fighting him, and so he rams Superman towards Batman as fast as he can go, right? But Batman has planned this. He rams through the local mind control antenna. he smashes through it, and it goes slow-mo all of a sudden as like Lex sees like his lights sort of turning off, and Superman is sort of like just blinks a little bit, like what the heck is going on? And there's got to be this visual metaphor for like we see sort of like the inside of Superman's brain or something, and like you can see basically the evil taking over now and then shrinking back type of deal. So it shrinks, and Superman like barely stops in time before he almost punched Batman's face off, right? And then the mind control versus genuine Superman is sort of struggling, and he like sort of does like a seizure or whatever, and Batman is sort of cautious about this. He gets out like a batarang. He's deciding what to do. Then Superman looks over, sees the batarang, and suddenly the evil side jumps up again because he feels threatened. So and it's got to be in Gotham, and it's pouring rain. He suddenly grabs Batman by the throat and like flies him up 20 stories or something. And somewhere up near the top of a building, like Lois Lane had been like looking down at this and like screaming or something, right? But on the top of the building, I love this iconic image. If you do the cinematography right, where eventually it's Superman holding Batman by the throat amidst the rain and everything, and he's struggling about whether he ought to kill this guy or not because he's not fully sane yet, right?
Actually, kind of ironic if you think about it. A dark, brooding man in a black cape getting strangled by someone who's not in a bright, colorful outfit.
Right.
It's like the opposite of Darth Vader.
Yeah, something like that. So this, I love this. He's got the thing on his throat, about to strangle him. Brief pause there, and Batman says, "I surrender." And Superman stops, and he just keeps holding him, but he doesn't choke him. And he says, "You wouldn't kill an opponent who surrendered, would you, Clark? I don't pose a threat to anyone. You wouldn't kill an unarmed or a defeated opponent, would you?" And we flash back to fricking Zod and all this other stuff about killing and Superman feeling guilty about it and about being raised, and you could say Clark at this point, and then it would flash back to his parents saying Clark and things like that, And Batman appeals to his humanity, right? But I love this notion where it's winning and losing at the same time. Because on the one hand, Superman wins. He got his hand around Batman's throat and could have crushed him, despite all of Batman's tricky plans. And Batman surrenders. On the other hand, surrendering is part of the plan to win. So he lost, but he won, sort of. And so Superman eventually, like, lets go, and he's freaking out some more, and he lands on the rooftop, and he's doing the seizure thing again. And this time, Lois runs up to him because she was in the stairwell, runs up to see him. And she's with him, and I want my Batman to be kind of philosophical, which he did a little bit of in Batman Begins. And he says something to the effect of, we need you, and we need you to be the example that humanity so desperately needs, type of thing. We need your spirit. We need your nobility, not just your strength, type of thing.
We need you to be the White Knight. I am the Dark Knight, the one who does the dark.
Essentially, yeah. I don't know if you'd phrase
it. Needs him to be Harvey Dent.
Kind of, yeah. Except not a lawyer. But anyway, so then this would lead to.
That's the only difference.
All right, whatever. So then this leads to, I think, I want to do maybe. If he get a sample of Superman's blood, he can trace the signal and find out where Lex's base is, something like that. So he can do that now that Superman's actually surrendered, and he's got a needle made of kryptonite or something, whatever.
I use it for sewing. I lose more buttons on this outfit than Ray. Where's Batman doing needle point with kryptonite?
Speaking of which, you talk about the voice. So the Batman of the Dark Knight trilogy, who was great, was very animalistic. And his voice could carry that too. Where were the other drugs going? Type of deal.
I don't know. I can't understand a word you're saying.
Right. So this Batman.
English.
This Batman, he would speak in a whisper. And not the whisper that's shy or cowardly, but the whisper of just sort of being very focused and in control. The sort of, it's very hard to kill a ghost, isn't it, Mr. L? Type of deal. And that works also well because of his thing. He's not only a bat, he's a creature of the night. The night is quiet,
that guy from The Matrix.
The Morpheus?
It is inevitable.
Oh, no. Like this, yeah, except not so droney, but yeah.
Well, yeah, but you get my
I know what you're saying, yeah. So anyway, Lex Luthor is back at his base, and all the things have gone wrong, and suddenly the proximity alarm goes off. Frick! Launches all the Dominators, and Superman is there, right? And Superman is like, busting through them stuff, but there's a lot. He might kind of be losing or something. And I want him to have a better face, that sort of sense of nobility now. He's like been restored his self-confidence, and he's punching these things with that basically nobility. I'll just keep saying that word. So then as Lex is managing this, okay, maybe we're winning, maybe we're security breach in lower levels, and it's Batman is just kung fuing through everything like incredibly fast and whatever, out in and out of shadows. Of course, the lower levels have lots of shadows, and he's punching people, and he's like freaking wires and stuff, and he's like throws like a bomb down a hallway, and that like blows up a generator or something. He's sabotaging the whole thing, very fast, very fluid, and it's like primary control system offline. Switch to secondary. Secondary control system offline. Switch to backup. Backup control not responding. And you see Batman has got like a thing plugged into the backup control wherever it is, into some wire. And all the Dominators just go like, they sort of fly away like they're stupid all of a sudden, And Superman's like, okay, cool, we finished that.
No, better. Backup control is currently in the low Earth orbit. You see like this Superman just flinging the backup control at the moon.
You could do something like that, but I do want Batman to be this teamwork thing, and there has to be asymmetry in the teamwork too, because of the asymmetry of the powers. So Lex freaks, right, and there's a series of like super strong doors leading up to the hallway where his main control room is, and there's just this boom, we see it on the computer monitor, boom, the next, boom, the third one, and Superman's coming, and he freaking reaches, he has like this long rectangular lead container, and he reaches into it, and he has a freaking kryptonite sword. It is like a badass freaking like a medieval sword completely made of kryptonite, and I'm just gonna say that the radiation isn't enough to kill humans or something. I know that it poisoned him in the comics.
Yeah, but he had that on him for years beforehand.
Yeah.
But you'd have to establish that kryptonite could kill Superman earlier in the
That's
film.
true. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention. This is me bouncing around. At some point, yes, I thought maybe you could do synthetic kryptonite even. That Lex Luthor sort of reverse engineers how Kryptonians work and comes up with an energy crystal.
How Kryptonians work? They eat food, they crap, and they turn into.
Well, you know what I mean. I mean, like regular radiation is harmful to regular people. This is special radiation that harms Kryptonians.
Yeah.
He could, and then you wouldn't have to be like, oh, and then suddenly a kryptonite meteor crashed, and and for some reason we didn't pick up all the debris. So synthetic kryptonite maybe. Anyway, so kryptonite sword, and I love this image too. Is Superman, hits the final wall, like this whole 10 feet around door bursts out of its hinges and smashes the wall right next to Lex Luthor.
And it's the Kool-Aid Man.
No, and Superman's like flying, slowly toward, and Lex holds up the sword. He's like, seated on the ground, sort of backed up against the wall, but holding the sword out directly to Superman. And Superman pauses for a moment there, and Lex is, barely hanging on and doesn't know what his next move is going to be. And suddenly, from outside the frame, Batman bursts in, tackles Lex, grabs the sword, punches him a couple of times, and puts the sword back in its lead container, all in like one fluid motion. And then suddenly it's Lex all by himself, and Batman sort of like nods, and Superman comes by, and Lex might say, I suppose you're going to kill me now. And then Superman would have a noble line and say, I won't, and just grabs him and like carries him out.
I will snap your neck, making you completely unable to move or take a dump for the rest of your life. But I won't kill you, unless you're threatening to use heat vision against a white middle class family in Grand Central Station. That's where the line is crossed.
No,
I'm still not over that.
It made sense in context.
Well, no, I know.
All right.
It makes sense, but...
All right, so, and he flies him out, and Batman has already contacted the police. You could have the showdown in Gotham if you wanted, because then Jim Gordon would get to show up. Or maybe he shows up anyway, despite it not being his district. Batman pulled some strings. And he would make some...
He's on vacation.
He would make some explicit reference to, like, I kept the archives in the computer, there's plenty of evidence, take them away, type of thing. I also thought there could be a little bit where Batman's talking to Gordon and maybe like one other, like a military guy. It could be a combined SWAT team military thing. They all just storm the complex because, of course, Batman puts the security things on off. But they could say, he could say to them, Batman could say to them, make sure Superman gets all the credit. I don't want people to put all the emphasis on me.
I just need to recharge the battery.
Okay. And
Shoot. Okay.
And the military guy might say something like, "Well, how do we explain, that you were here?" And Batman could just be like, "Who says I was here at all?" And he fades away, and that one was a hologram. Like, he was there at all, but, he could pretend like, no, it was all Superman's doing. And this is all part of the gambit to show the world that Superman is a good guy. We do this montage of media, including even Clark Kent, maybe, or probably Lois Lane, I'll go with, reporting that, oh, Superman was under mind control, we fixed it, Lex Luthor was totally at fault, Lex is in jail, everyone hates him, Superman gets the key to the city, Metropolis or something like that, big, and there's an adoration of the crowds, and Superman reflecting on, like, okay, he does have a role, he is a good guy, type of thing, he's retained a bit of that nobility, and then you could have a bit of a voiceover conversation between the two of them, like they talk private later on about, Superman could say, don't you want some of the credit? And he says, no, that's not my way. And we have different roles. And you will be the hero to inspire people to a greater level, while I will be the demon who will frighten them away from their more base instincts.
Might want to coach that in slightly different words. I'm getting a lot of the Dark Knight in here.
Dark Knight was a good movie, and he didn't...
I know. I'm just saying that it feels very similar to what Batman was going for. The reason he wanted Harvey Dent to take over, because he was the White Knight.
Yeah.
The knight in shining armor.
Right, that's why I wasn't going to use the phrase White Knight, but...
Knight in shining armor!
Oh, dear.
You bastard!
Anyway.
Okay, I'm sorry. Continue. You're...
I thought Superman...
Dark Knight.
Yeah.
And it was a great movie.
Mm-hmm.
You just want to make sure that you...
I think it's okay. I mean,
it's okay.
To repeat on that theme in this new context, and it's been a couple movies later, and it's about Superman and Batman versus Harvey and Batman. Overall, I think it works out. And I was going to have Batman, when he says I'm a demon, to frighten people away and let them know their crimes will not go unpunished. Superman could follow up with, well, you're not a demon. You are an angel of the night. And that would be a nice way of saying how much he trusts him. And Batman would give this very subtle smile and a very subtle nod to that. I'm a good guy, but I want to make everyone afraid of me because that's how I work.
Then later, religious scholars are like, hey, wait a minute. Wasn't there like an angel of death? Crap! That was an insult!
And then I would have Superman presents Batman with the sword, in its case, of course, but he sort of lays it on a table and Batman... takes up and he says, the police let me keep this, something, after I persuaded them, whatever. And this is the origin of Batman's kryptonite ring he's going to have later. He's going to carve out the piece of it or something like that. I love it being a sword, though. I love that visual of him, Lex holding it up earlier on.
It would allow him to maintain it would fit into what he's trying to think he's doing. He wants to be the noble hero of humanity.
Yeah,
and what
symbolism.
is more noble than the paladin? The
right,
knight?
right.
What's a paladin? Yeah, He's going to kill me for that one. But than the knight. What is more emblematic of a knight?
Than his sword.
But his sword is a close second.
His sword is a second. And more functional that way. You can actually stab someone with it.
Well, if your armor is spiky enough, you can stab someone.
Well, that's true. Anyway. So you give him the thing, and then they go in the separate ways, and we have Superman's strength restored, his moral strength restored. We have the deep bond between them. We have some line about, either then or earlier on, Batman, as I said earlier, I will save you, and then you will save us all. Okay. You could also have a note.
It would emphasize Superman's Christ-like nature.
Yeah, and at the same time, it doesn't make Batman worthless. Because you needed me to get you up to this level of yours again, to be free from the mind control and to be effective and all that.
And it taught Superman how to be a good person.
Right. And isn't that cool that it would come from Batman? Yeah. That Batman would say, no, you are the White Knight or the Shining Hope or whatever. Be that guy.
You're the Jesus analogy here.
Yeah. I'm like the boogeyman or something.
Okay, now I want to see a comic. Jesus and the Boogeyman. They fight crime!
More or less.
Another 5 prostitutes dead on 6th.
Or another way...
My God, this city tears you apart.
Or another way to play that phrasing is, we've been saying, I will save you the whole time. You could say at the end, you will be the shining example and I will frighten people away from their darker urges, and together we will save them all.
Together we can be justice.
And then yeah, basically fly off into the sunset thing, you know. Or make it like, I don't know, both like be on a mountain looking off into the distance. I want to come up with some sort of visual that involves them both at once, but Superman would have to be flying and Batman doesn't. Whatever, I'm sure you'd think of something. Speaking of visuals, one thing I'd love to do is change up the visual nature of these films. They've gotten so realistic and gritty that they've lost the iconicness.
Zoom out.
Zoom out, yeah. Well, it's...
Give us the scope.
Give the scope, give it, and no shaky cam, obviously.
Okay, we discussed a lot of this in our very first review.
Right. I mean, I'll just do a little bit more, though, because the way you play with shadows, for instance, the way you play with framing, when I want to see Batman, I want to see every time he's always just in shadow. He blends into a shadow on the ground, on the ceiling, somewhere, you know. You said to me before, and was it Link Carr said this originally, that Marvel is about people and DC is about icons.
Yes.
Right? And what a perfect comparison with the Avengers, which tries to have a realistic tack, but it works the way it does. And they have the sort of humor and stuff that, you know, makes it kind of feel real also, as well as all the action, obviously. But let's do, instead of trying to ape that, let's do what DC does best. And we have this sort of philosophical thing by the end of the light and the darkness and together and saving the world. And we are grand. We are beyond, you know, the lesser forms that people can descend to if they so choose, you know. And do that with the visuals. Do that with the way I mentioned before. Superman's got his, basically, see Kingdom Come by Alex Ross. Everything he ever does, and especially that one, I think, is just all about the grandeur. And you can do grandeur played straight. You can do it so it works, and it doesn't sound like, you know, cheesy or whatever. Grandeur can be done in a cheesy way. Grit can be done in a cheesy way. Humor can be done in a cheesy way. Anything can be done wrong. Let's do it right, though. And let's have this epic feeling. You know, the whole fate of the world was resting on this. And along with not just like, okay, the world was gonna blow up. Oh, we saved it. Lots of movies do that. But a feeling of the scope of the world, all the people. We talked about the masses and how they feel, and the common man type of thing. And then it all connects to our internal development and Superman finding his place and finding his nobility and being the shining example, and Batman, of all people, helping to show him that, you know. And in the meantime, it's a freaking fight movie. It's a fight, and you know, the Batman versus Superman, how cool is that? But we did it so intelligently. We did the fight itself so intelligently, because Batman is all about the tricky plans and the misdirection, stuff like that. It's like a giant chess game between him and Luthor, sort of. Though, again, Superman has to be more involved. And this is something I haven't, honestly, thought through well enough yet. I mentioned Superman involved a little bit, but there's got to be stuff for him to do in the middle of the plot. Maybe, you know, he tries to find out who this criminal is that's been blowing up military bases, discovers it's himself, you know. Perhaps in his good moments winds up leaving clues on purpose. He would leave a clue here and there for Bruce to find. He knows he's about to go under mind control, so he does a thing before he loses himself. And this provides, you know, vital evidence for Batman, stuff like that. But yeah, so you could have the epic movie people are looking for. You could have epic fighting, but it's intelligent fighting. You could have these characters, and we treat them intelligently too, and we have them develop, and we have their arc, and it really is more Superman's development in a sense that I've been tracing here as a character. And we wind up with them, that great friendship of theirs. We get to defeat a villain in the meantime who's actually, you know, part of the whole plot, rather than, oh, we'll just stop fighting each other and then we'll fight the villain, which I'm afraid they're going to end up doing. We'll find out. And yeah, those visuals, the way you play with shadows, the way you play with framing, all the time. I want Alex Ross and possibly Jim Lee, because he's awesome too, to do all the concept art and try and match up the actual shots to that concept art as much as possible. Give people time to look at it and be like, whoa, this is big. And wouldn't that be awesome? And that is basically what I have to say.
Okay, I didn't do too much, thank God. I don't have anything to add either, so...
Sound like a good idea?
Yeah.
I think so.
So, I'm Sith King, didn't do much.
And I'm Sonic Sons.
Signing off.